So, are any of you brave enough to share the word that stood out to you in this reading? Let's have some people shout their word out. Trust, lift, faithfulness, wait, love. Okay, these are good. Oh, do you have one? What was that? Caring? Yes. Thank you. Hope. These are good words. I picked out a few of these words for myself too. The word that I picked out was wait. And somebody lifted up the word wait, about waiting on the Lord, waiting for the Lord. This is the season of Advent. This is our first Sunday in Advent. And Advent isn't just a season where we buy an Advent calendar that has cool stuff in it. Anybody have any Advent calendars? Okay, we have one at our house. It's a Star Wars Advent calendar, and so each day my son gets to open up one of those windows and then build a little Star Wars vehicle or get a minifigure. It's pretty cool. But Advent is a special season. It doesn't just have us looking forward to Christmas. It does two important things. The word Advent means coming. So during Advent, we look back and we remember how Jesus came already into our world as a baby born into this world. But we also look forward to when Jesus will come again, when Jesus will bring God's full kingdom into this whole world. So it's both looking back and looking forward. And so wait is an important word during Advent. We're waiting in this in-between time. And this psalm that we have for today is a kind of a psalm about waiting, where during this in-between time of waiting between when Jesus has shown up and when Jesus will show up again, this psalm asks us to lift up our souls to our God. So as we wait, we lift up our souls to God. I'm wondering what things are on your hearts, on your minds, on your souls right now. If you think about the things that come to your mind that you've been worrying about, concerned about, struggling through, not knowing how these certain things will resolve, what are those things that you are lifting up to God right now in this season? The person who wrote this psalm, this prayer to God, is lifting up all sorts of things. This person wants protection against enemies. This person is concerned with direction and wanting to know which way to go in life. Show me your ways, God. Teach me your paths. Lead me, God. This person has this prayer to God for guidance. This person is also kind of looking inward and evaluating themselves. Like, wow, I've had some sins in my past. I've had transgressions. There's things I regret. So this person's looking backwards, is looking for direction into the future, and is also just looking at the things that are kind of open-ended, that they don't know how will be resolved before God, and lifting all those things up to God. Those are the things we lift up. At the men's Bible study on Thursday morning, one of the men asked, "Why is it that we just look at the sins of our youth?" And another one of the men in the Bible study said, "Because that's when we did all of our best ones." So maybe that's the case. But it's a psalm that asks us to look back, to acknowledge where we are today, and to look forward and see where God will guide us. So waiting is a good word. But I also picked out another word from this psalm, and it's actually two words, so I'm cheating. It's steadfast love. Because steadfast is what describes the kind of love that God has for us. It's not a fading love. It's not a fickle love. It's that steadfast, enduring, sustaining love that only God can give us. So as we lift up our souls with all the things on our hearts and minds, we know that those things are surrounded with the steadfast love of our God. And that's what can sustain us in this season. We have a lot of traditions in this Advent season. In addition to Advent calendars, we have a lot of things that are exciting here in our church community, things that help us grow in faith. We have beautiful choir cantatas and Christmas programs. We've got the Advent Festival. We've got all these things that we can do that help us grow in our faith in this season. But we also have a whole bunch of traditions that maybe you bring from your families, from your culture, all these different things that are special. It seems like leading up to Christmas, there's just so many traditions. And one of the traditions that some of you may have is watching some favorite Christmas movies. So throughout December, our teaching series is called Christmas at the Movies. And I bet you all have favorite Christmas movies. And I think what makes these so special is that they often lift up something heartwarming or beautiful, but they don't tell the whole Christmas story. We're using them to kind of open the door and see how God can walk into our lives through some of these same human experiences that we see in these movies. Oh, excuse me, that was loud. But now that I have your attention again, I have a Christmas movie that is really serious, one that, I need a drink of water, but I'll get it when I play this clip for you. But it's a really serious movie, one all about introspection and looking at past sins and struggling with all sorts of enemies and terrible things. Let's see what movie it is. Recognize that movie? Home Alone. Okay, I think I may have lost you because you're thinking, serious movie? I don't think so. But in this movie, there is a moment dry throat. There is a moment that is serious, but I'll set it up for you in case you haven't seen Home Alone, and if you haven't, you have to run home and watch it at some point soon. But Kevin is this 8-year-old boy, and he's in this big family, and they're all getting ready to go on this big trip to fly in an airplane to Paris, and in all the busyness, his family leaves in the morning, and they forget Kevin at home. And this is before cell phones, so they're really in a pickle. And they don't realize they've left him till they're already on the plane flying overseas. And Kevin wakes up in the morning and his family is gone. And he thinks that perhaps he has wished them away because he said the night before, "I hate you and I never want to see you again." And he thinks perhaps he has wished them away. So he's all by himself. But then the plot thickens because there's some bad guys, some robbers who are casing the neighborhood, and they want to rob the homes that don't have any families in them during Christmas. So Kevin has to defend his home. But there's this moment that happens where he starts to feel overwhelmed. He starts to miss his family, and he goes to church, and he ends up having a conversation with an elderly neighbor of his that he's always been afraid of. And they both have this moment of kind of examining themselves and needing some guidance. So I want to play this clip for you right now.
I've been kind of a pain lately. I said some things I shouldn't have. I really haven't been too good this year.
Yeah.
I'm kind of upset about it because I really like my family. Even though sometimes I say I don't. Sometimes I even think I don't. Do you get that?
I think so. How you feel about your family is a complicated thing.
Especially with an older brother.
Deep down, you always love them. But you can forget that you love them. And you can hurt them and they can hurt you. And that's not just because you're young. You want to know the real reason why I'm here right now?
Sure.
I came to hear my granddaughter sing. And I can't come and hear her tonight.
You have plans?
No. I'm not welcome.
At church?
Oh, you're always welcome to church. I'm not welcome with my son. Years back, before you and your family moved on the block, I had an argument with my son.
How old is he?
Well, he's grown up. We lost our tempers, and I said I didn't care to see him anymore. He said the same. We haven't spoken to each other since.
If you miss him, why don't you call him?
I'm afraid if I call him, he won't talk to me.
How do you know?
I don't know. I'm just afraid he won't.
No offense, but aren't you a little old to be afraid?
You can be a little old for a lot of things. You're never too old to be afraid.
That's true. I've always been afraid of our basement. It's dark, there's weird stuff down there, and it smells funny, that sort of thing. It's bothered me for years.
The basements are like that.
Then I made myself go down there to do some laundry, and I found out it's not so bad. All this time I've been worrying about it, but if you turn on the lights, it's no big deal.
What's your point?
My point is, you should call your son.
What if he won't talk to me?
At least you'll know. Then you could stop worrying about it, and you won't have to be afraid anymore. I don't care how mad I was, I'd talk to my dad, especially around the holidays.
I don't know.
Just give it a shot, for your granddaughter anyway. I'm sure she misses you, and the presents.
You better run along home where you belong. You think about what I said, all right?
Okay,
It's nice talking to you.
nice talking to you.
So in this moment, we see that Kevin and this elderly neighbor, they're both kind of wrestling with mistakes they've made, with arguments they're having, things they're dealing with in their lives, both needing some direction. They both kind of look at the sins of their youth. And after this moment, then Kevin has to run home and he has to defend his house against the bad guys. And it's an amazing thing that happens because all sorts of hijinks and slapstick comedy ensue as Kevin uses all sorts of basic things he has at his house to set up booby traps and obstacles so these bad guys can't get him. He ices up the sidewalks so they slip and fall and makes the doorknobs really hot so they burn their hands and drops an iron on one of the guys' heads and uses his matchbox cars so they slip and fall, and then the paint cans tied to strings that he swings down the stairs. It's amazing, all the things that he does. It is the ultimate kid empowerment movie. We showed this movie to our son for the first time a few weeks ago, and he loved it. We laughed so hard we couldn't breathe during this movie. And every time Kevin stopped the bad guys, he would go, "Yes!" And my son would go, "Yes!" And ever since then, my son's been drawing maps of our house and showing how he would defend our house against the bad guys who would come and what he would use. It's an awesome movie. I feel like as adults, maybe we wish we could do that with all the other things that are invading our lives. Like maybe we wish that we could have booby traps and obstacles so that bad things couldn't get to us, so that we could protect ourselves and our families, our kids, our hearts from hardships, from illness, from death, from bad luck. Don't you wish you could just set up obstacles and say, "Ha, you thought you could get me, cancer, but you can't." Or keep mean people from hurting your kids, or there's all sorts of things that, don't we just wish we could set up those obstacles and be empowered like Kevin was in that movie? But in the end, Kevin needed help too. In the end, he couldn't hold off the bad guys completely. And if you remember, that neighbor he was talking to in church ended up saving him from the bad guys. He needed help from an external source. And the thing is, we all need help too. Because we can't set up booby traps and obstacles so that hard things won't come into our lives, won't break our hearts. So it's in this season of Advent, of waiting, where we lift all these things up, all the things we're dealing with, all the scary things, the fears, the illnesses, the grief, the loneliness, the addictions, all the things we struggle with, we lift these up to our God. And we know that these things are surrounded with God's steadfast love. And here's a cool thing about the word wait. In Hebrew, in the language of the Old Testament, it can be translated in two ways, either wait or hope. So we're not just waiting as we are dealing with all the things in our lives, we're actually hoping. We're putting our hope in our God because we know that this God has already come into our lives as Jesus. We know that God has given us the Holy Spirit to be with us now, and we know that God will bring God's plan to completion in the fullness of time and bring goodness and peace and safety and health and all the good things that only God can bring. So during this time, we wait. but we wait with hope. Hope in our God who surrounds us even though we have so many things on our hearts. Amen.